Avoid becoming timid. You're merely a dropout from high school who is going to teach me German. Direct threw the documents at me in jest. I understand. I was resentful, but I dutifully began to look through the materials and was immediately struck dumb by what I read. We are unable to accept this deal in any way. It might put the survival of our business in danger. Huh. I quickly translated and quickly perused the document, highlighting its main points. My prospective boss Derek and the other executives in attendance looked shocked. My name is George. I was employed by this company for about 20 years, first as an apprentice on a part-time basis. I was recently called back to the central office following 10 years of service at a foreign branch. I walked inside the busy New York headquarters feeling melancholy. Known for his witty and easygoing demeanor, my father vanished the moment he found out my mother was expecting. Growing up in a home with just one parent, I saw my mother's immense challenges. She put in a lot of overtime doing piecework late into the night while working throughout the day at a supermarket and cafe. My mother encouraged me to go high school while I was in my 3rd year of middle school, but I decided against it since I wanted to support her financially and I knew she worked nonstop. Upon realizing that her overwork was causing her health to deteriorate, I didn't hesitate to begin working as soon as middle school ended. I started working a part-time job at a plant that makes computer parts. It gave me plenty of work to keep me occupied in addition to meals and a transportation stipend. It was the ideal job for me. Everyone at the plant was quite kind to me, maybe because a kid had just joined them. They gave me tips on how to do better, more productive work, and even how to wash work clothes properly. I was even given veggies by some to bring back to my mother. Everyone loved me, and I enjoyed my work because of their thorough coaching. It was a fantastic stroke of luck that President Thompson saw my rapid improvement and extended an offer to hire me on a full-time basis. I happily purchased a present for my mother after I was given a bonus for my well-received work. But my mother, who was always weak, died 4 years later, leaving me all by myself. It was during this time of loss and depression that President Thompson approached me with a chance. What about working abroad? We're going to help you with your German. Observing my struggles in my homeland, he extended this opportunity to me. An underperforming overseas division of the corporation was established. Without my mother, I felt lost, so I took the job offer overseas. It was really difficult to adjust to working in a different nation. Numerous misunderstandings were caused not just by the language barrier, but also by cultural differences. At first, there were problems like arriving late and producing poor quality work. I disagreed with the local employees a lot, but through talking to one another, we eventually started to understand one another. Some even sobbed for the mother they had never met when I told them about my upbringing. I got support from local figures and was invited to family feasts. I steadily established a reputation for myself at the branch office in this way. 10 years later, I was comfortable speaking German and handling agreements with other parties. I was then told to go back home. I tried so hard not to think about my mother for 10 years. It surprised me to be standing in front of the headquarters 10 years later. The headquarters had built a brand new, very attractive building while I was working hard abroad. It was a glass-topped tower, manned by armed guards all hours of the day. Good to see you again. You've had success abroad. You have a temporary role set up for you, so please give it your all there. President Thompson greeted me with a pleasant smile. My status as an employee of the corporation remained uncertain. They didn't appear to know where to put me to the best use. President Thompson greeted me and then hurriedly led me to the sales division. The sales team seemed young and enthusiastic at first glance. My name is George, and I will begin working with you right now. It's nice to meet you. I said hello. Everybody grinned in response to my greeting. I had assumed that I would be able to settle in easily at the headquarters. However, a man quickly destroyed my hopeful view. I greeted Durek, the department manager, who was my new employer, the following day. Good morning. My salutation received no response. He appeared unhappy, despite his cordial demeanor during my introduction the previous day. I said, "Good morning," once more, in case he hadn't heard. Calm. You were heard. All of a sudden, I was subjected to foul language. A mocking voice then followed, making fun of me even more as I stood there in shock. You're older than me and a high school dropout. Yes, you traveled abroad or whatever, but I suppose that's simply because you're too naive and inappropriate, don't you think? While I had previously experienced disdain for being a dropout, I wasn't prepared for it to happen here. Derek went on, leaving me stunned. With a contemptuous glare in my direction, he said, "Guarding a useless dropout like you is just my bad luck," before turning back to his desk. My coworkers informed me over lunch that Derek's outstanding educational background made him an elite. He used to look down on people he thought were beneath him and flatter those he thought were superior. He was disliked for showing off his status, but he put up a nice front, so criticizing him would just fuel animosity. The folks at work appeared to have accepted the situation to some extent. It seems that Derek was modest at first, but grew haughty after he hired assistants. I attempted to start my true assessment of Derek, but he offered me no clarification. As a recent high school dropout, you can manage this workload. They told me to just do some menial tasks, not even allowing me to handle the documents properly. No, I was assigned here by President Thompson, so please let me see the contracts or something, I replied. As I already stated, this place does not employ a worthless high school dropout. Whoa, hold on. Derek remarked arrogantly. He said to me, "From now on, clean with her," after phoning a local part-time cleaner. What? The part-time employee and I were both taken aback. Document work is too good for an incompetent dropout, he grumbled. I glanced at the part-time employees, stunned. With a sly smile, Derek set down a cloth and broom in front of me. Hurry up! Or does a dropout not even know how to clean? I was starting to get frustrated, but I didn't want to stir up issues so soon after coming back. Plus, my coworkers were staring at me all the time. They were undoubtedly scared that Derek would take a swipe at them next. I forced myself to control my feelings as I took up the broom and rag and got to work cleaning. Offering me coffee in the break room, the part-time employee stated, "Well, it looks like we're done for today." I'm grateful. I said, "That Derek is a pretty bad person." She revealed that, simply for being a member of the cleaning staff, she too was treated with contempt. Emily Thompson was her name. We grew close since we were close in age and experienced the same hardships in coping with Derek's excessive demands. I gave her some housekeeping advice in exchange for her teaching me some sewing methods that I had picked up from assisting my mother with her housework. Derek's haughty demeanor only became worse in the interim. He put me on mundane jobs like photocopying and making tea, which are usually assigned to new hires. He would not even show me the documents when I asked to see them. He would grudgingly give them to me only after I begged for them. While my coworkers would offer me pitying looks, they appeared to be apprehensive about facing his wrath. I didn't harbor resentment toward them, as I recognized how they felt. Subsequently, they would apologize and covertly present the documents to me, facilitating my work without drawing Derek's notice. On the list of possible contract applicants, I came across an unsettling organization one day. The foreign corporation was infamous for not making payments and for not fulfilling orders. When I worked at the branch office, I seem to have noted it as a hazardous venture. If we can secure a contract with any of these, it could significantly grow our company, and my achievement will be huge. With excitement, Derek said. In fact, we wouldn't have to keep paying the outsourced management firm a fortune if we could put this company's management AI technology into practice. Derek was clearly excited, driven by a desire for achievement, but I felt uneasy about that firm. I had my disagreements with Derek, but I couldn't allow the business to take a risk. It would be wiser, in my opinion, to learn more about that business. It's best to exercise caution when dealing with certain dubious companies that operate abroad, I advised, passing him a guide that included the branch's warning standards. But he knocked the paper out of my hand and scattered it all over the floor. "What are you doing?" I let out a cry. Aha! As if there was any value to a document authored by a dropout from high school. Avoid poking your nose where it shouldn't be, he mocked. Talking to him was obviously pointless. I pondered whether Derek's kind was typical of this organization. Emily walked over to me in the cafe, groaning loudly. We had gotten to know one another well by then. "Did Derek treat you badly once more?" "You're not to blame," she remarked. "He didn't even glance at the manual I made, just knocked it over," I responded. "That is quite awful." "What did the handbook cover?" she inquired. I was unable to simply educate Emily, an outside contractor, about the manual because it contained proprietary company information. I thought she would be disappointed when I told her this, but she just grinned broadly. "George, you're incredibly sincere. You'll undoubtedly experience better days with your diligence," she informed me. Her grin made me feel better. Emily's gesture of rewarding me for my hard work with handmade cookies inspired me. I plucked up the guts to go talk to Derek. I asked to go with him, even as an errand boy, because I was fascinated about his approaches to contract negotiations and signing. He asked in jest, "You want to shine my shoes?" I said, "Yes, I'll do it." He spoke with contempt, saying, "Fine, but remember, someone like you shouldn't even be part of this." I was given the opportunity to take part in the negotiation, which was embarrassing. Derek had indicated that the other party was supposed to visit our office at 2:00 p.m. for a meeting. In the afternoon, I entered the meeting room door with this sliver of hope, but it was entirely empty when I got there. I found out that the meeting had concluded early in the morning as I hurried to the office. I turned back to my work and noticed Derek grinning. "Hey, remember how I said the meeting was at 11:00 a.m.? He asked, "What's this mess now?" "What are you trying to say? Wasn't that meant to happen around 2:00 p.m.? Confused, I asked. I said, quite plainly, 11:00 a.m. He made fun of the fact that a high school dropout couldn't even tell the time. I then realized that Derek had been playing me. "What kind of person are you, Derek? Is there something wrong with me?" "It's not your place to speak up, you low achiever." I was unable to attend the contract meetings because of this. I opened the cookies Emily had given me covertly since I was feeling low. Then an incredible event took place. "Hi, you inept person. Don't you dare think you can take a break." Derek took the cookies from me and crushed them into dust under his shoe. "How were you able to do that?" "Those cookies belonged to Emily." "Aha, that maid who cleans. Ideal for someone who lives on the bottom like you." Was it my fate to be viewed in this manner, simply for not completing my high school education? For me, I could take it, but I couldn't bear Emily being made fun of too. It's enough. I have some opinions of my own on this. Derek initially appeared surprised by my firm tone, but he soon became enraged. "What? You're refusing to obey me? You call me incompetent all the time, but what knowledge do you actually have about me? You never even attempted to recognize my potential. It must be so simple for you to simply look down on me." Derek slammed a hefty page in front of me, clearly sensing that this had touched a nerve. "So you're able to read this, correct? Hey, Mr. Middle School Dropout, teach me some German." Recognized. I opened the document and began to read. It seems like the transaction today involved a contract. If this is approved, it will represent a significant step forward for me. Disregarding the gloating Derek in the background, I perused the document further and came across a troubling revelation. This might bankrupt the business. I was shocked to see Derek taking the contract away from me as I looked up. A dropout from middle school can't understand German, of course. Restart with the alphabet, he stated in his typical condescending manner. I didn't care about it now, though. "What topic are you discussing? We run the risk of losing our business if we accept this arrangement." I threw caution to the wind and hurried to the president's office, yelling at Derek. President Thompson paled as he read the contract and heard my explanation, but he was still shocked by my abrupt arrival. Derek was instantly called by him. "I'm sorry, President Thompson. This fool just walked in and started messing around. What the heck is this about, on earth?" President Thompson called in other executives, and I brought up a few alarming concerns during our conversation. Is this the contract from today's deal? Yes, Derek said, but President Thompson's yell overpowered her. Derek, are you attempting to put this company out of business? Look at this, no delivery date mentioned. It was surprising that the contract didn't include a delivery date and only required payment in advance of work commencing. As I read the contract, I quickly translated it. President Thompson and the other executives became ghostly pale. The other party's delivery date is not specified, but we have a deadline for payment. That's the issue. Well, they said they were short on funds to build the system, so once we transfer the money, they'll deliver it soon enough. Derek attempted to refute my assertions, but he became agitated. I think he sensed something wasn't quite right, but he didn't want to concede. Derek attempted to argue with me, but I calmly said, "No, there's a real possibility that they could just take our money and disappear." Derek was getting desperate. "What are you saying? I have personally witnessed the company's system. What if that was just a sample to gain our trust?" Derek became enraged and yelled at me, but each time he spoke, his words were jumbled. The pact lacked legitimacy. It was essentially just a verbal one. In the event of conflict, it would just result in a pointless dispute based on he said, she said. It was, however, a particular provision that concerned us more. The cost of updates for any deficiencies will be borne by us as needed. It was printed in minuscule, difficult-to-read German. No maximum limit on the sum was specified, and accepting such terms may result in significant financial obligations. This indicates that you haven't carefully read the contract. These problems would have become obvious right away with a little care. Nah, such a large organization could never possibly mislead us. The contractor, a significant participant, has been in the news a lot lately, particularly in the foreign countries where I have been deployed. Dealing with foreign corporations frequently implies that our laws don't apply, in contrast to America where confidence is crucial. Derek's face went hot and then pale as I expressed these worries to him. I recently agreed to their offered contract. When we spoke, there was no issue, but the document itself seems to indicate different, doesn't it? A contract is hard to revoke once it has been stamped. We might not even succeed in suing an international corporation. For this reason, as a precaution, we at our branches use milestone-based or split payment systems rather than making large upfront payments. Contracts are essential because the opposing side is waiting for us to step into their trap. Derek was shaking and biting his lip, clearly angry that I was always challenging him, but I didn't have time for him. "President Thompson, I'd like to speak with the business. We should be able to handle that as we haven't signed a deal yet." "Yes, do it, please. I apologize for requiring you to tidy up this mess." Derek, myself, and a few other execs got in touch with the counterpart. They arrived with great anticipation, supposing the contract to be finalized. But when they saw not only Derek, but other employees queued up, they became perplexed. Negotiations with the executives was challenging because the opposite side consistently avoided taking accountability. Derek simply recoiled in the middle of the intense German discussions. Anyway, these stipulations are unacceptable to us. We must, at the absolute least, alter the terms of payment. But Derek gave his approval. The contract was not read by him. Although it's our responsibility, these terms are not appropriate. It's likely that the other side was holding out for the promise of a huge payment. They grudgingly agreed to void the contract in the end. We've heard a lot of different rumors concerning your business. We would have to think twice if it were going to cost us millions. It seems that my hard position worked. Ultimately, they departed the company with disparaging remarks about the Americans. I was relieved. There was a chance that the situation would not have changed. Because foreign corporations can disappear anytime, dealing with them can be challenging. President Thompson congratulated me when he got back to the office and chastised Derek. The other person's vicious behavior is their fault. That's what any other worker would have done. Why am I being held responsible alone? President Thompson, not a fan of long-winded excuses, chastised Derek even more as he babbled. Derek bore the burden, whatever the reason. By not thoroughly reviewing the contract, he had put the company in peril. If you can't even read a contract properly, I can't trust you with important tasks. Derek was furious that President Thompson had effectively sidelined him. Why? I made a contribution to this business. It's his fault for getting involved. Derek lost his temper. President Thompson and I were speechless by his ridiculous logic. Do you even understand why I hired John in the first place? Thompson inquired. I know he worked abroad, but he dropped out of high school. Isn't that right? I don't deserve to be disturbed by someone I hired to perform my work. Derek answered, looking very irritated. President Thompson then started berating Derek. Enough already, Derek. John is a gifted person who, in 10 years, turned around our international branch. Are you making assumptions about him based only on his school history? That is untrue. Merely a means of bringing him into the group. How is a high school dropout capable of being competent? Even after receiving such a harsh scolding, Derek fired back. Derek was still unable to own up to his mistakes. Fed up, I opened my mouth to speak. Despite never having finished high school, I have 10 years of experience working with foreign corporations from my time at the overseas branch. We're thinking about doing business at the headquarters with foreign firms. Therefore, I was requested to come along this time. Derek shook and stammered in disbelief, staring at me as if he saw something strange. The issue is a corporation hiring a dropout like this one. Dropouts ought to simply bow down at the bottom. Derek's well-styled hair appeared tousled as he spoke ramblingly, as if he had forgotten what he was saying. He was obviously quite disturbed by my accomplishments within the organization. The result would probably have been the same even if he had understood from the start. I talked evenly and calmly up to Derek. Derek, do you realize how much trouble you've caused the company with this incident? Derek winced at what I said, but then he snapped back, his brows set in indignation. Cease talking. You're nothing more than a foolish incompetent. Enough already. You are the one who nearly brought harm to this business. I spoke up. President Thompson went over and spoke to Derek face to face while Derek bit his lip. It's true that you're well educated, but that doesn't give you the right to act like an authority figure here. Recognize that your conduct is inappropriate for a professional setting. But for him, it's the same. Derek shot back, attempting to place the blame on me for arriving late for the meeting. He's not behaving according to professional manners either. I can't believe I'm considered inferior to someone who can't even keep time. Thompson said, then show us the email correspondence with the other party. The true problem was that I had been absent because Derek had missiled me about the meeting time. It was actually 11 o'clock, not the 1400 hours I had been informed. It would be evident right away if we could view the exchanges between the two parties via email. After receiving a firm order from President Thompson, Derek reluctantly showed the emails. As it turned out, the customer and Derek had agreed via email that the appointment would take place at 11 o'clock. That Derek had lied to me was verified by this. That is untrue. I informed John at 11 o'clock, but he failed to appear. Derek's pathetic justifications were ignored. His foolishness left me stunned. It goes beyond that. Instead of providing John with any work, Derek has been forcing him perform housework and serve tea whenever he has the chance. And then, as if to rub salt into wounds, somebody else showed up. It was the cleaning lady Emily. What are you doing here, Emily? Who is this cleaner trying to get involved? Emily was a cleaner, but instead of her typical work clothes, she was wearing a sharp suit. Emily, I appreciate all of your hard work. Dad, it's okay, she remarked. The fact that Emily was President Thompson's daughter surprised everyone. Despite sharing a last name, nobody had ever considered the possibility that they were connected. Because it was against President Thompson's policy to give preference to family, Emily had to start out as a cleaner and learn about the inner workings of the business. Few executives were aware of this, and it was maintained a secret that she was the president's daughter. Emily, sensing my hatred for Derek, started going into great detail about everything. This is unfair. That is merely unfair and cunning. Derek yelled. If you had behaved properly, there would have been no problem, and you even crushed my cookies. Emily answered. Derek, who had scorned Emily by calling her merely a maid, paled to death. The speed at which the color left his face almost impressed me. Despite confronting many difficult obstacles, John never made an attempt to divulge company secrets. "He's a reliable individual," someone remarked. "You don't seem to be thinking like someone who should be in a leadership role." President Thompson said, "Your responsibilities as the head of your department are terminated." President Thompson made a bold and decisive pronouncement that no one dared to dispute. Derek fell on his knees, completely overcome with sadness. I was given the position of head of the sales department, in charge of negotiations with overseas businesses, a week later. Derek had formerly oppressed my old coworkers, but now they were working harder. Derek didn't get fired, but he did wind up working for me. His discontent was evident, but his haughtiness had vanished. He fell behind in his job and murmured complaints beneath his breath. "What are you doing, Derek?" "Nothing. If you have time to surf the web, you should be working on improving your German proficiency," I said. When I saw there wasn't enough corporate communication training or German language proficiency at our headquarters, I'd established a learning program in the language. I considered this to be essential. Yes, I did begin holding meetings with foreign corporations, but we were always undervalued when dealing with astute foreign business people. Maybe some of this might be attributed to the less forceful nature of Americans. My team's negotiating abilities quickly improved when I gave them some pointers, and we were able to close deals. Derek had thrown away my handbook, but now new hires were using it at Emily's suggestion. It had been read and authorized by President Thompson. Our company's success increased, particularly with the foreign branches. We had exposed the foreign company through our proactive information sharing with other businesses, and now it was isolated and posing a threat to us. It was said that they were close to filing for bankruptcy. This was a job where hard work paid off, and I felt really satisfied. But Derek was the only one who stayed glum and refused to learn. I could give him advice, but he would not listen. "Why do I have to be told such things?" he asked, always projecting an air of negativity as he expressed his displeasure. This attitude prevented any meaningful assignment from being assigned to him. It was immature to give Derek mundane jobs out of spite, but there was nothing admirable about him either. Eventually, these times came to an end. He didn't appreciate having me give him orders. Workers who had previously worked for him were moving up the career ladder quickly. It seems that his pride could not bear to see this fact. I gave up. "I refuse to work for a company that honors high school dropouts," he exclaimed, slapping his resignation letter down in front of me. I made no attempt to stop him. Rather, I agreed to his resignation. Subsequently, I learned that Derek made an unsuccessful attempt to join one of our rival companies. His impressive educational background was unable to make up for his haughty demeanor and poor command of German in interviews. Because of his reputation, there were a lot of speculations circulating in the sector. His high school knowledge would have been a terrific asset if he had been humble and ready to learn. But the chances of him finding work again were slim. Emily and I were dating in the interim. She was performing well in the accounting department and had formally joined the company with President Thompson's consent. She was the daughter of the president, but she worked hard and without conceit. "I could work hard because of your support." I said, "Thank you," to her. "No, you were merely being truthful and honest. You were acknowledged because of your abilities," she answered. Gradually, what began as a dinner to express gratitude for her support became into a romance. We told each other how we really felt, and now we're talking about when to bring up marriage with President Thompson. Living together should be easy because we both like doing housework. I experienced some days of loneliness after my mother's death. I'm excited to start a new family with Emily now.